Heroes and Vampires. Origins. Episode 1. The Day the Earth Opened. The television murmured in the background, its glow casting a soft blue over the kitchen walls. Sunlight spilled in through the window above the sink, catching dust motes in the air like drifting stars. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Too quiet for a weekday morning. Lawns trimmed, cars parked, the occasional dog barking somewhere down the block. Inside, the smell of eggs, fresh fruit, and wheat toast filled the room. Drew Titan sat at the table, broad shoulders relaxed for once, a rare stillness in his posture. His hands, scarred, steady, rested around a mug of black coffee. Across from him, Tamberla leaned forward slightly, chin propped in her palm, watching him more than the TV. "You're not even listening," she said, smiling. "I am," Drew replied, though his eyes hadn't moved from her. "They're saying the planet's falling apart." On the screen, a news anchor stood in front of a graphic showing shifting tectonic plates, glowing red lines cutting across continents. Increasing seismic instability across multiple regions. Scientists warn that accelerated glacial melt may be altering pressure distributions along major fault lines. Tamberla reached for a strawberry, dipped it in yogurt, and took a bite. "You don't think that's serious?" Drew shrugged slightly. "I think they say something new every week to keep people watching." "That's not fair," she said, pointing at the TV. "They've been talking about this for months. Earthquakes in places that never had them before. You saw what happened in..." "I saw," he cut in gently. "And I've also seen panic get people hurt faster than anything else." She studied him for a moment. Even sitting still, he looked like he was ready to move at any second. That was the ranger in him, always coiled, always alert. "You don't worry about anything, do you?" she asked. Drew smirked faintly. "I worry about you burning the eggs." Her eyes widened in mock offense. "Excuse me, these eggs are perfect." He leaned forward, stole a forkful from her plate before she could react, and chewed thoughtfully. "Yeah," he admitted. "Perfect." She laughed, shaking her head, then reached across the table and squeezed his hand. The moment softened him instantly. "2 days," she said. "2 days," he echoed. "No deployments, no sudden calls, no disappearing on me for months." Drew's gaze dropped to their hands. "Yeah." "You sure they won't pull you back?" she asked quietly. He looked up, meeting her eyes. "I wouldn't let them." That answer settled something in her. She smiled again, this time softer, more certain. "I still can't believe we're doing this," she said. "After everything." "After everything," he agreed. They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that didn't need filling. Outside, a breeze moved through the trees. Somewhere, a lawnmower started up. On the TV, the anchor's voice sharpened. Unconfirmed reports of ground ruptures in isolated areas. Drew reached for the remote and muted it. "Enough doom for breakfast," he said. Tamberla raised an eyebrow. "You muted science." "I muted panic." She rolled her eyes but didn't argue. Instead, she stood, gathered their plates, and carried them to the sink. Drew watched her move. Easy, graceful, familiar. This was what he'd fought for. Not medals, not missions. This, normal, for once. By late afternoon, the sun hung warm and golden over the neighborhood. Children rode bikes in uneven circles. A couple argued softly across the street. Life carried on like it always had. Drew stood in the front yard, tightening a loose board on the porch railing. Sweat darkened the back of his shirt, but he worked methodically, focused. Tamberla stepped outside, holding 2 glasses of lemonade. "You're supposed to be on leave," she called. "I am on leave," he said without looking up. "Doesn't mean I can't fix things." She walked over, handed him a glass. "You're impossible." He took it, their fingers brushing. "You love it." She leaned against the railing beside him, watching the street. "You ever think about where we'll go after the wedding?" she asked. "Thought we'd stay here for a bit," Drew said. "Get settled." "And then?" He considered. "Somewhere quieter, maybe. Less. Everything." She smiled faintly. "You picked the wrong planet for that." Drew chuckled under his breath. For a moment, the ground beneath them gave the faintest tremor, so slight it could have been mistaken for a passing truck. Tamberla frowned. "You feel that?" Drew paused, eyes narrowing just a fraction. The sensation was gone as quickly as it came. "Yeah," he said slowly. They both looked down the street. Everything appeared normal. Kids still riding. Dog still barking. "Probably nothing," he said. But something in his voice had shifted. Night fell gently, wrapping the neighborhood in quiet darkness. Porch lights flickered on. Crickets filled the air with their steady rhythm. Drew and Tamberla walked side by side down the sidewalk, their fingers interlocked. The world felt smaller at night, safer somehow. "You nervous?" Tamberla asked. "About what?" "The wedding." Drew glanced at her. "No." "Not even a little?" "Nope." She bumped his shoulder. "Liar." He smirked. "Okay, maybe a little." "What are you nervous about?" He took a breath. "Messing it up." "You?" She laughed softly. "You've jumped out of planes and walked into gunfire." "Yeah," he said. "None of that matters if I mess this up." Her expression softened. She stopped walking, pulling him to face her. "You could never mess this up," she said. "Not with me." For a second, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then the ground moved. At first it was subtle, a low vibration, like distant thunder rolling beneath their feet. Drew's head snapped up. "Something's..." The streetlights flickered violently. A deep, guttural roar erupted from beneath the earth. "Drew!" The ground buckled. The pavement split open with a deafening crack, a jagged line tearing through the street like a wound. Cars jerked and tilted. Windows shattered in a cascade of glass. "Move!" Drew shouted, grabbing Tamberla and pulling her back, just as the ground where they'd stood collapsed inward. The world erupted into chaos. Buildings groaned, then folded in on themselves. Power lines snapped, sparking wildly. The air filled with screams, dust, and the grinding roar of shifting earth. "Stay with me!" Drew yelled. Tamberla clung to him, her breath coming fast, eyes wide with terror. The ground heaved again, harder this time. They stumbled as a section of sidewalk tilted sharply. A car slid sideways, crashing into a mailbox with a metallic scream. "Over there!" Drew pointed toward an open patch of grass. They ran. Behind them, a house collapsed in a thunderous crash, sending debris flying into the street. A chunk of concrete slammed into the ground, where they'd been seconds before. The earth split again, a massive crack opening ahead of them. Drew skidded to a stop, pulling Tamberla back just as the ground dropped away into darkness. For a moment, all they could do was stare. The crack stretched down the street, wide and jagged, swallowing everything in its path. "What is happening?" Tamberla whispered. Drew didn't answer, because he didn't know. Another tremor hit, violent, relentless. "Come on," he said, dragging her along the edge of the rupture, searching for a way around. A man stumbled toward them, covered in dust and blood. Help! Before Drew could reach him, the ground beneath the man gave way. He vanished into the darkness below. Tamberla gasped, her hand tightening around Drew's. "Don't look," Drew said, pulling her forward. The air thickened with dust, making it hard to breathe. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance, though they were quickly drowned out by the roaring earth. A streetlight toppled, crashing into the pavement with a burst of sparks. Drew shoved Tamberla aside just in time, the metal pole slamming down inches from where she'd stood. "Stay close," he barked. "I am," she shot back, panic rising in her voice. They moved together, step for step, dodging falling debris, leaping over smaller cracks, navigating a world that was tearing itself apart. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The ground stilled. The roaring faded. The world fell into a heavy, unnatural silence. Drew stood frozen, chest heaving, scanning their surroundings. The neighborhood was unrecognizable. Homes reduced to rubble. Cars overturned. The street split open like broken bone. Fires flickered in the distance, and everywhere, stillness. Tamberla's voice trembled. "Is it over?" Drew didn't answer right away. He was listening, watching, waiting.